We are in the year of 2026, and for us Fairy Tail fans, that means one thing. Fairy Tail has officially become a 20-year-old series, which is a big milestone, especially considering that Fairy Tail as a series isn't actually done since we have the sequel 100 Years Quest currently running with its bi-weekly manga, and the anime having its first season of 100 Years Quest already out, with a second season assumedly in production to come out within the next few years. We are not going to be starved for Fairy Tail content, because with a milestone like 20 years, there is definitely going to be stuff planned for the future. And even Hiro Mashima himself has made a very special 20-year anniversary for the series illustration over on his X account, to where Shonen Magazine's official accounts will on them be posting it as well. And this is a big thing. Fairy Tail is definitely Weekly Shonen Magazine's biggest property outside of literally Hajime no Ippo of the most current era. So it makes sense why this is a literal big deal for the series to be 20 years old. And I believe it was stated that there are projects to help celebrate Fairy Tail's 20th anniversary going to be happening this year. Now, what could this mean? Well, I have a couple of ideas, so stick with me. But before we jump into speculating what the 20th anniversary of Fairy Tail will bring us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see more of me outside of these videos, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about comic books in general. Right now I'm DC and Marvel focused, but I'm going to be branching out to Image Comics as well as other indie stories whenever I get the chance. Maybe I'll throw in some manga or webcomics in there as well. Who knows? But with that out of the way, let's jump right into this. So let's get into the obvious. For the 20th anniversary of Fairy Tail, which will be in August of 2026 when it officially turns 20, for all we know, that could be around the time when we get the announcement for 100 Years Quest's second season. Which would be pretty big, because I believe that is not only one of the best, but also most controversial sections of the 100 Years Quest manga. Because we have the Doggermog Labyrinth arc, which is honestly one of my favorite arcs in 100 Years Quest. But then we have the Gold Owl arc, which for the majority arc is a lot of fun, very interesting, but has a pretty lackluster type of ending, at least in my opinion. I might make a video on that in the future whenever I get the chance to reread it. But either way, would still, if given enough time, would end up being a really cool thing for Fairy Tail fans to watch. And for all I know, the anime will probably improve that arc. But either way, the chances of 100 Years Quest coming back for Season 2 are pretty likely, and for it being announced during the year of the 20th anniversary seems almost guaranteed. But who knows? They could be waiting a bit longer for there to be more content for the manga before announcing anything else for the future seasons of the Fairy Tail anime. But there is something that fans have been wanting to see for a couple of years now, ever since the end of the final season, and especially since the 2020s started, and that is a full-on remake or reboot of the Fairy Tail anime. Now, over the last few years, we have had a ton of reboots or continuations of older anime. Even some canned, axed anime or manga have been getting anime adaptations lately. Heck, Shaman King got a reboot. Hell Teacher Nube is currently running an anime, which is a reboot of the original anime series from, I think, the 80s, I believe. We are getting a Hitman Reborn continuation for the 20th anniversary as like a special type of thing. Ranma One Half got a reboot. Urusei Yatsura got a reboot. We've been getting a couple of decent reboots over the years, even though Shaman King's reboot seemed kind of, well, lackluster, let's be honest with ourselves. But still, the idea of older anime from the early 2000s, early 90s, and 80s getting remakes has been happening more and more since the 2020s came around. And now people are kind of hoping that Fairy Tail gets a reboot. Heck, there's rumors that Bleach could get a reboot, considering the success of the 1,000-Year Blood War anime, and in July of this year will be the finale of Bleach's anime with the last part of 1,000-Year Blood War airing. So, the possibility of Fairy Tail getting a reboot, just like potential of Bleach getting a reboot, is not 0 to none. But why would we want a reboot or remake of the Fairy Tail anime? I thought it was great. Many people thought it was great or enjoyable. And to an extent, yes, it was enjoyable. Voice acting was great, sub and dub, and the soundtrack is definitely one of the best in anime history, with a almost perfect track record of anime openings and endings that weren't any flops. There were like one or two subpar ones, but overall, those have been pretty damn enjoyable. However, the Fairy Tail anime is not exactly the best adaptation of the series, considering it went through 3 studio changes. It had a lot of censorship for the first 175 episodes, a good chunk of filler that was either forgettable or not good, despite there being a few filler episodes that I actually kind of enjoyed, but also just some weird ways of portraying some of the characters or extending things that just didn't feel too interesting. And the animation, as much as people want to dog on 100 Years Quest, the original Fairy Tail anime did not have a lot of great and amazing animation. It was a bit more consistent than I would say 100 Years Quest was in terms of its animation quality, but overall it was kind of fine, especially for a weekly series at the time. So, the need for a reboot for the original anime makes sense. Make it uncensored, have it follow the story a bit closer. Who knows? Maybe Mashima could be in it and also help with any potential corrections to the story like the anime ended up doing for a bit, like how the Irrational and Stasis backstories were added back into the anime when Mashima forgot to add those into the original story of the manga when the Irrational and Stasis arc was going on. And for all we know, maybe Mashima can end up extending the backstory of Acnologia as well. We can get a few extra stuff added in, just like how Bleach 1000 Year Blood War had a bunch of additional stuff for the lore of the series, more interesting fights for characters, and gave more time for just characters in general to do stuff when the original Bleach manga was, well, it was being rushed due to Kubo's health. So, the possibility of the anime being extended, following the story even closer with less filler, extending the fights, and even adding stuff that would actually improve the story and add more for the characters, is definitely something that we could see happen in the future, and that would be a great way to celebrate the story of Fairy Tail, at least with the original series. We'll still have 100 Years Quest going on, but the main series can be remade and start airing weekly, like how we did with Bleach, but have it be, like, broken up into different cores. And it would also be significantly less episodes and better pace for the most part. Because let's be honest, there's a good chunk of the Fairy Tail anime where the pacing was not great. So, yeah, that's also a problem that can be fixed with a remake. But is that going to happen? I really don't think so. But the possibilities aren't zero, and since Fairy Tail is still relatively popular in Japan, and Mashima is still pretty much in demand for like character designs, and him still going off the series and wanting to make another weekly series while doing Dead Rock monthly and 100 Years Quest bi-weekly in terms of the writing it, the possibilities still out there. So, a remake for Fairy Tail, I'm okay with it, as long as they get a studio that will actually give a shit and not have their teams spread incredibly thin to the point where they cannot work wholeheartedly on the series and have all hands on deck. 100 Years Quest had some good moments, but they had a very short production schedule thanks to the production committee screwing them over. The season could have looked a lot better if, in fact, they were given more time to work and also had a bit more talent to work with as well. So, if Fairy Tail gets a remake, that needs to be a priority. And I wouldn't mind waiting another 5 or so years for a remake of Fairy Tail if it comes out great. Last thing, in terms of Fairy Tail's anime, I would love, if for a celebration of the 20th anniversary, we actually get a freaking movie for Fairy Tail. We've had 2 movies, Phoenix Priestess and Dragon's Cry. Both good movies. Dragon's Cry I still have a lot of problems with in terms of, well, where things take place, because it frustrates me with some aspects of it. I can make an entire video on it. I've been holding off on making that video for a while now. But those are still 2 very good movies with some of the best animation quality that we've had in Fairy Tail in general. So having another movie to celebrate the 20th anniversary would be great. What would it be about, though? Well, personally, I would actually like it to be a movie that is, well, either non-canon or canon, but takes place between the 1 to 2 years after Alvarez and right before the 100 Years Quest begins. Because there's still like a year and a half or so between the end of the original manga and the start of 100 Years Quest. So having a really fun, well, one-off adventure in a movie would be pretty great, and for all we know, we could expand a bit more of the world of Fairy Tail, because there are other continents, the world's a lot bigger. We could see a lot more being done in this entire franchise, and for all we know, it could plant the seeds for a potential continuation or spin-off in the future. If we all, well, let's be honest, we would all be happy to see more continuations and spin-offs of Fairy Tail, especially if it was based on other characters as well, and we get a bit more world building. So a movie is a very big possibility for the 20th anniversary, as a lot of different anime have done movies or specials to celebrate big milestones. But that's pretty much it for the anime side of things that I expect to happen for the 20th anniversary in terms of announcements or what could happen. What about the manga? Well, we currently have Hunter's Quest ongoing right now, so I can expect things to ramp up in the terms of the story for Hunter's Quest going forward. As right now, I guess spoilers up until a timestamp on screen. If you don't want to spoil it for Hunter's Quest manga, Natsu regained Ignio's flames and now has a new form of Dragon Force, Dragon King mode. He's fighting Ignia and Ferris, so one being the Fire Dragon God, and the other having the power of Acnologia and black magic like Zeref. All while right now, Team Natsu, the main team of Fairy Tail, is simply going to fight off against the Calamity Bloods, who are a group of dragons that were preserved for 400 years, and were also coincidentally the same dragons that appeared during the Grand Magic Games during Future Rogue's whole Eclipse Gate shenaniganry. And they're also a lot more powerful than they were during the Grand Magic Games arc, so there's that. So we got a bunch of stuff going into 2026 in this year for the 20th anniversary. So far we know we could see a bunch of fan servicey stuff in terms of, callbacks to old things, characters getting big moments, maybe new forms or power-ups, or just really hype fights for all we know. I don't expect too big things from the manga in terms of the 20th anniversary of the franchise. I just expect the story to keep going and giving us some really cool moments. However, in terms of manga, I have to hope that we get announcements for more spin-off manga. Because we've already had a couple. We have Gray's prequel manga, we had Wendy's current spin-off manga that takes place after Rashio and Sace and before Edalus, from what I can tell. Loxus had a spin-off that takes place right before Alvarez. Gajiel has his own spin-off. Sting and Rogue have their own mini spin-off as well. And there's stuff like Fairy Tail City Heroes and Fairy Girls. Fairy Tail has a lot of spin-off manga. But for the 20th anniversary, it would really be great for us to see a bit more of these new spin-offs. I would love one focusing on Mira Jane and her siblings, the Strauss siblings. They desperately need some content for themselves and relevance. Even if it is in their own spin-off series, it gives Mira a chance to show off her strength and maybe have her fight some other demons. A bit more development for Elfman and especially Lazana. Heck, we can get a really fun spin-off with Kana and Gildarts. That would actually be a really fun thing to see. Gildarts being a main character in a book alongside his daughter, father-daughter duo doing some big stupid shit. That'd be hilarious. Heck, we would even get another Fairy Tail Zero type of story that takes place during the Guild Wars for all we know. We've had glimpses of it in the main manga and allusions to it at the end of Fairy Tail Zero. But a little glimpse to the Guild Wars would actually be pretty interesting to see. Or maybe something else. Maybe a Zero-focused series or just one-shot showcasing his life and how he led from the time when he was cursed up until the present day, or at least up until he created END/reviving his brother. That would be an interesting thing to see. These spin-offs can do a lot to boost characters, add more to the overall lore of the story, because for all we can tell, none of these spin-offs actually contradict anything of the main canon of the manga. So it does really add more to the characters. So more spin-offs, I would really appreciate it. Now look, I said this when the Hunter's Quest anime came out. I would love if Mashima just did a dumb detective non-canon thing with Gajiel and Panther Lily. That bit was hilarious at the beginning of Hunter's Quest in the first arc. I want a whole, at least one singular volume thing on that. That would be hilarious to see. Mashima, if you give me that Gajiel, Panther Lily detective comedy thing, my life is yours. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of like the manga side that I would like to see. Just spin-off stuff to give to side characters that just desperately need some additional, boost in their own stories and characters and give them their own time to shine outside the current ongoing manga. Heck, who knows? We might even get another ongoing Fairy Tail manga, this time being the Next Generation thing. I already made a video over the summer of 2025 going over what I think a Fairy Tail Next Generations type story would be. So go give that a watch and let me know your thoughts on that. But yeah, that's it for what I can see from the manga and anime side. Lastly, video games. Fairy Tail 2, the sequel to the first Fairy Tail console game that we had a couple of years back, we ended up getting in 2024, it was a fun game. Unfortunately, I had no chance to finish it, but I might jump back into it at a later point. It was still a fun game, but I couldn't bring myself to finish it, unfortunately. I had a lot of other games to play at the time as well. But we had that console game, as well as a few app games like Fairy Tail Fierce Fight, and a Fairy Tail Idol game that came out towards the end of 2025, which was okay. I couldn't get into it, but that's pretty much it. But Fairy Tail's also had a bunch of collaborations with other mobile games and stuff, so there's that as well. You can get your favorite characters in other mobile games during specific events. But that's pretty much it in terms of the video game side. I would like to see maybe a Fairy Tail fighting game or something, or, and this is a big one, maybe a Fairy Tail game that takes place from the beginning of Fairy Tail up until Alvarez arc, instead of giving us two separate Fairy Tail games that takes place after Tranro Island, then goes up through Grand Magic Games in Tartarus, and then you have the second game be all about Alvarez as well as some other side content and stuff. I think that would be a really cool thing. Give us an actual game going through the entirety of the story of Fairy Tail, similar to like we had with the Naruto Ninja Storm games, or more recently with the current Bleach console fighting game that we got in 2024. That would be awesome. But hey, that's just me. A fighting game would be great. A story game taking over the entirety of the series would be fun as well. Or just a pretty fun, I'd say, mobile game for Fairy Tail as well, like we have with like One Piece or Bleach. Unfortunately, Naruto's got canceled years ago, but that's beside the point. But yeah, more Fairy Tail games would be honestly be really fun to see, but that's really just my 2 cents on it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on what potentially could happen and what we could see in terms of announcements for the Fairy Tail 20th anniversary. Or heck, we could see more one-shot chapters for Fairy Tail and AU situations. That would be fun to see. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, what you would like to see potentially get announced for the 20th anniversary of Fairy Tail. Are you excited? Are you hoping we get a remake of the anime, or a season 2 of Hunter's Quest, or some spin-off manga for all you know, or a movie? Let me know. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.